This first dinner is a Cajun meatballs with a Cajun cream sauce. First thing we're going to do is get the meatballs ready. I did change the recipe up a little bit, but I will have the original recipe linked down below. In my pot here, my bowl here, I have a pound of ground chicken, adding to that an egg. I'm adding in a half of a cup of almond flour. The original recipe called for panko breadcrumbs. Also added in a quarter cup of grated Parmesan cheese, a tablespoon of Cajun seasoning. I've been using that blackened Cajun seasoning that I've been showing you guys, but I've been using on pretty much everything. Also putting in about a tablespoon of minced garlic, and 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. And then we will be adding in also 2 tablespoons of dried parsley. You can use fresh parsley if you have some, but my store only had, I don't remember what kind of, the curly parsley, but I like the Italian parsley. Anyway, so I'm using the dried parsley. Now we're going to go ahead and, add some salt and pepper, and then we're going to mix all this together and make them into meatballs. So once you form them all into meatballs, then we are going to go ahead and put these into the oven. The recipe, I believe, calls for putting them in a skillet, but I just like to put them in the oven. I put them at 350 degrees for about 30 minutes or until they're cooked through. So just go ahead and just check on them. I just prefer the oven method. That way I can do the sauce in the meantime. So in my skillet here, I do have some butter. So I have 2 tablespoons of butter that I'm letting melt down, and then to that I am adding in 1.5 cups of chicken broth. And here is that Cajun seasoning that I was telling you about. So we're going to add in a tablespoon of this Cajun seasoning into the sauce. This is a very spicy sauce and meatballs. Just so you know, it is really spicy, which I love. So you can adjust the seasonings to maybe make them not quite as spicy. Now I am out of onion. I thought I had some frozen onion, but I do not. So I'm adding in some minced onion here. It's completely optional to you, but the recipe calls for half of a cup of minced onion. But like I said, I didn't have any. So I just used the minced onion. And then also, of course, adding in some salt and pepper, and also going to go ahead and stir that around really well until it is nice and mixed up. Now I'm going to go add in a half of a cup of heavy cream, and we are going to whisk that a little bit more to get all that incorporated. Now this original recipe calls for flour, but we are going to use xanthan gum. So the key to xanthan gum is to make sure what you're adding it to is already hot. Otherwise you're going to get a gummy mess. It does not mix with cold stuff at all. So you want to make sure everything is nice and hot. So I always make sure it's pretty much boiling or had been to a boil, and I'm letting it simmer down before I add in the xanthan gum. And then it comes out smooth every single time. So you just want to add that xanthan gum, probably about a teaspoon. And then you're going to add your meatballs back in. I forgot to show you what they look like when they came out of the oven. So they came out of the oven and I put them into my skillet with the cream sauce. Now I'm going to go ahead and just let that simmer while I make my dressing that's going to go with my salad. So I'm going to make a white wine vinaigrette dressing. This dressing, you're going to need some white wine vinegar. So you need 1 cup of vinegar. And I'm using my blender cup for this, so just put that into my blender cup. Also adding in 1 cup of oil. You can use avocado oil, olive oil. I believe I have olive oil here. I could not remember after I put it into my little oil thing what I was using. And then you need 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. And then you also need 2 tablespoons of minced onion. I use minced onion for a lot of things, by the way. And then you are going to add in 3 tablespoons of sugar substitute. I am using salt first. So you want to add salt first. And now we're going to do the sugar substitute. So I am adding in 3 tablespoons of the pure sweetener. So that's what I use for my coffee. It's a stevia erythritol blend. It's my favorite by far, but you can use monk fruit, whatever you want to use for that. And then I'm also adding in a tablespoon of coarse ground mustard. You can use like Dijon mustard if you'd like. I did not have any. I just had this coarse ground mustard, or it is coarse ground Dijon though, actually. So I'm putting in a tablespoon of that. Then we are just going to put that onto our blender and blend it up. You can also just whisk this. This is what it looks like. It is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So here's my finished plate. I have the meatballs with some cream sauce, a big salad with some avocado and blue cheese and that white wine vinaigrette, and some green beans. I have to tell you, this recipe turned out amazing. I highly recommend it, both the vinaigrette and those Cajun meatballs with that Cajun cream sauce. Highly recommend, so try it out. Let me know if you guys do try it out. This next dinner is an Italian stuffed zucchini boat. Oh, this is another good recipe, y'all. So I have two really good size zucchinis that I'm gonna go ahead and cut the ends off, then cut them in half. And then we are gonna scoop out the center. Now, I always save the inside whenever I'm making zucchini boats. Hardly any recipe ever says to like save it and put it in with the mixture, and I don't think this one did either, but I always do. It just adds some flavor. Plus, you don't want to waste that zucchini, and you know, we're counting carbs for it, so we might as well eat it, you know, so it just added more vegetables. So I always do that when I scoop it out. So I just take a spoon and scoop it out. If you have like a melon baller, I know those work really well. I used to have one, but I don't know what's happened to it over the years. So but yeah, melon ballers work really well for this. But I'm just going to go ahead and scoop out the inside, and then we'll move on to the next step. The next step is to cook these zucchini boats in the oven to make them all nice and soft. So I'm just adding a little bit of olive oil to each of them, and this is going to go into a 400-degree oven, and you're going to go ahead and put those in there for about 15 to 20 minutes until they're soft. I added a little bit of salt on there as well. I don't think the original recipe called for salt and pepper, but I believe in seasoning every layer of your dish. It just has so much flavor that way. Next up, we are going to go ahead and start cooking the inside. So the zucchinis are in the oven, so we're going to go ahead and cook the inside. So now I have some ground Italian pork sausage here I picked up at Walmart. This was some good sausage, had a lot of flavor to it. It was just their brand, and it just said mild Italian sausage. Wow, it was really good. So if you see that at Walmart, I recommend picking it up, especially for this recipe. So I'm going to go ahead and cook that down till all nice and cooked. So sausage takes forever. Do you guys think that? It like takes forever to cook. I hate cooking sausage. I did add a little bit of minced garlic to my sausage because I love garlic. So I add garlic to pretty much anything that makes sense to add garlic to. So go ahead and just continue cooking this until your pork sausage is all cooked through. We are adding in some Italian herbs. Do about a teaspoon or so. I don't always measure out my herbs. And then here are those that inside of the zucchini. So I'm just going to throw that in there, and I'm just going to cook it down. It cooked down to pretty much nothing. You didn't even really know it was there, but I mean, it was all cooked in with the meat and everything. So then the next step is to add in your tomatoes. You want to do this after your sausage is all completely cooked through. This is a 14.5 can of diced tomatoes. It says to drain it, but how do you drain diced tomatoes? Like, I drained a little bit off, but it still had a lot of liquid, which was not an issue at all, by the way. It was not an issue. And now we're adding in a 1/4 cup of grated Parmesan. This is the kind in the green can. I'm going to go ahead and just mix that around until it's all nice and stirred up. And now the mixture is pretty much done, and we're getting ready to stuff our zucchini boats. So let me go ahead and pull those zucchini out of the oven. And here we go. So they're nice and soft. I felt them just to make sure. And then we're just gonna stuff them. We're just gonna go ahead and put that filling into each of the zucchinis. Now I had a lot of filling left, as you'll see here at the end, which I went and just popped into my freezer. I just put it in a little container, popped it in my freezer, and I actually had enough to do 2 more zucchinis. So the original recipe did call for 4 zucchinis now that I look at the recipe, so that's why. So it definitely made exactly what it said it was going to make. So I have this in the freezer, so now I can make this again, which I will, because it was a really good recipe. We're going to top this with some shredded mozzarella cheese. You guys know I like to shred my own cheese, but since we've moved, I have not gotten all that stuff out yet, so I'm still buying shredded cheese right now. So here's what it looks like when it came out of the oven. Okay, I did overcook them a little bit. I was really distracted. I was making 2 different dinners at one time, but I still feel like it came out okay, and it tasted fantastic. Once you got over the crispy cheese, that's all that is. It's just crispy cheese on top. It is such a good recipe, so definitely try this recipe out. The next dinner I have for you is a Thai chicken salad with a keto-friendly peanut sauce. This was so good. Okay, what you're going to need is some cucumber, red bell pepper, some red cabbage, green cabbage, purple cabbage, green cabbage, cilantro. So I went ahead and chopped all those up. You need about 1.5 cups of each of the cabbages, and then you need 1 whole bell pepper, and about a half a cup of diced cucumber. Now I'm going to throw all of this into a big bowl, and then I am going to add in some carrots. I know those are not like keto, but this is definitely a low carb salad, and I like carrots. So I did add in about a cup of shredded carrots, which I just bought the pre-shredded kind, and this is huge. Like, this makes 8 servings. I think the original recipe actually said 3, but that would be a big salad. Like, look how big this is. Honestly, like 3. No, I portioned out 8 servings. So it definitely, and it filled me up. Just by the way, it's really low calorie, but it definitely filled me up. So I'm just going to go ahead and mix it all around until everything is nice and incorporated, and then we're going to go ahead and make our sauce when that is all done. Oh, I did add on some green onion. I forgot to add on the green onion. I love green onion. Okay, our sauce. Our sauce is going to consist of a 1/4 cup of some kind of natural peanut butter. I use the Crazy Richards peanut butter, which is my favorite. It's the lowest carb I can find in my area. I believe it's only like 2 net carbs. Tastes amazing. No sugar or anything, but it tastes really good. And then we are going to do 2 tablespoons of this coconut amino. This is the Trader Joe's coconut aminos, but there's all different kinds you can get. I can never get it out of there, so I had to take off the top as usual. So we have 2 tablespoons of coconut aminos in there, and then we're also adding in 2 tablespoons of water, and then we are going to do some lime juice. I'm doing 1 tablespoon of lime juice. Now, the original recipe calls for honey at this point, but I am going to substitute the honey for pure sweetener. So I'm using 2 teaspoons of this pure sweetener in there. And this is the same thing as the pure sweetener I use for my coffee, but I use the granule form for my coffee. And now we're going to add in some sesame oil. I absolutely love sesame oil. This original recipe only called for 1 teaspoon of sesame oil, but I did a tablespoon because I love it so much. And then we're going to do some red pepper flakes. I actually put too many red pepper flakes. It says a pinch, but I love red pepper flakes. But when I ate this salad, I was like, whoa, it's just really spicy. So be careful on the red pepper flakes unless you like, super spicy food, which Thai food I know is normally really spicy. This peanut sauce came out so good. Look at that. It is amazing. Now, I cooked some chicken thighs in my air fryer while I was making the salad. So I went ahead and pulled those out, let them cool down, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut those down. They are still a little bit hot, by the way. It says you need 2 cups of shredded chicken. From a rotisserie chicken, or about a pound of boneless, skinless chicken breasts or thighs. So I have about a pound of thighs here, and I'm just going to go ahead and chop those up and add them to the salad. The chicken was still a little bit too hot, so I'm going to go ahead and add in the sauce first and just mix that up. And then when the chicken cools down a little bit, I don't want it to like wilt my veggies. So when the chicken cools down, I'll add that in there. And here's my finished plate. You guys, this is so good. And it had a lot of leftovers. And what's nice is with the cabbage, it allows you to have leftovers that it's not like regular lettuce where it's going to wilt down. The cabbage holds its shape so well that whenever I make these types of salads with cabbage, you can put it in the refrigerator and it still tastes good the next day. So highly recommend this recipe. It will be linked down below. Just remember the modifications that I made to make it low carb, keto friendly. As always, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day to watch my video. All the recipes will be linked down below. And please, if you recreate any of these recipes, link me on social media, which will also be linked down below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.